a very good evening to you, and thank you so much for sticking to Y254 TV. My name is Cheryl Blessing, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Power Talk Show. Now, I've been missing for a few weeks, but Philin Jin has been here holding down the fort for me, and you've been having some amazing conversations. Today, I want us to get into another conversation that has been trending on the platforms, and it's something that I think every single person has to deal with at one point or the other, especially given the season. Valentine's is around the corner, our expenses are high, it's the end month, and we're starting a new month. So there's so many things that require us to really understand how we can manage our finances. This evening, I want us to have a conversation on money and lifestyle. I want us to understand how we can live within our means, given our income and all the things that we want to budget for, all the expenses that we have, and the current situation that we're in economically. I'm here joined by two amazing guests who are going to give us some insight on this conversation. To start off, we have Frederick Shikuku, who is a media strategist and a consultant. How are you, Frederick?
Yeah, I'm good.
Karibu.
Yes, I'm welcomed. Yes.
It's such a pleasure. Next to Frederick, we have Winnie Wanjaria. And Winnie is a wealth and investment management consultant for the Movers Society. How are you, Winnie?
Very well, thank you.
It's such a pleasure to have both of you here. I like that we have the mix of someone who's very financially literate and someone who's also dealing with media strategy and to some extent careers and skills. So it's going to be a very informative conversation. We're going to get deeper into what some of the things that we are doing wrong and how we can amend our financial habits right now to make sure that we attain the financial freedom that we all want. I want to engage with you as we continue with this conversation. You can do that by going to our platforms at Y254. Our hashtag is the Power Talk Show. Let me know what you think. Why do you think people are living outside of their means? Why do you think people live such extravagant lifestyles and they go outside of their budgets just to prove a point sometimes or to feed some sort of ego that they have? I want you to let me know by going to our platforms at Y254. Send me a comment, send me an experience that you have, share anything that you have to add to this conversation, and let me know, why are you even personally living out of your means? Why are you living beyond your means? That's something that I want us to get into. And to kickstart the conversation, I think it's something that we've all had: live within your means, live within your means. But what does that even mean? What does it mean for someone to live within their means? Winnie, what would you say is the definition of living within your means?
So in a very, very simple way, I would say living beyond your means literally means that you're spending more than you earn. Yes.
And I like that because that's very simple and clear.
Yes.
You're spending more than you're earning. So nikama, it's like the traffic. The incoming is less, but the outgoing, it's way higher.
Way higher.
And but there's this story that I've come across also on social media platforms that people talk about different levels of, you know, everyone has their own means. Because there was this video recently, it came out, I think a few people have come across it, where someone was talking about the girl's maintenance day fee. And the rate was about 38,000. And someone else was like, Mimi, my maintenance is still at 10, someone is at 8, another is at 500. And everyone has different definitions of living within your means. So that requires you to have some sort of income. And that brings me to Frederick. How, because most of the viewers we're just starting out. We're young adults. We're just starting life. So how can we create incomes to make sure that we already have a source? Ndo tuanze kusema, this is what we're working with. Before we start spending and doing all these things, how can we make sure that we have some sort of income?
Okay, first of all, I would say having an income. First of all, one of the challenges I think I'll begin by saying that is, first of all, getting that income. That is one of the hardest challenges. But once you get that income, I mean, regardless of the salary, it doesn't matter whether it's 30,000, 10,000. You see, nowadays, people are always in a rush to prove a point. But if you follow the simple basic rules of investment, of which there are 20, 30, I think 10, 20, 30, and then 50. if I'm not wrong. Yes, if you just follow that, I think then you'll be good to go. And once you get that salary, I think now it's time now to mature, because most of these money talks, not even our parents give them to us. We only learn them through experience and the world. Of course, unapata shida, then that is when it slaps you. Now we will now start thinking of saving and stuff. Yes, and also investing.
I like that. So you have to start from where you are.
Yeah.
Because that's a truth that we all know. Most of us are not educated in the matters of finances. You become an adult and all of a sudden, you have to budget. You have to factor in expenses. You have utilities. What are utilities? And there are all these things that we're not really taught about, that only we get the realization when we're adults. When we get there, no tunalan kwa ground. And how then can you assess? Because sometimes your income can be your parents' pocket money. They give you maybe a weekly allowance of 1,000 bob. For some people, if you're in uni, you're a first year, you get 2,000 or 5,000. There's some people who get 10,000. And what other ways can you increase that? Because you have that basic income, and if you're fortunate enough to have parents who support you or guardians who support you, you most likely have that basic income level. But then how can you supplement that? How can you make sure that, yes, maybe my parent gives me 5,000, but this 5,000 is enough for my hair and maybe some shopping for food, but I also need clothes, I need this and that. So how do you supplement that? Winnie, might you have an idea of things that we can do to supplement the basic income that we get?
So I would say, if you get 5,000 from your parents, you need to be able to figure, what can this 5,000 bob do for me? Okay. So if you spend 1,000 bob on hair, you probably need to consider, can I bring that down to 700? Maybe put aside 200, put aside 100. Because the thing about starting this whole conversation about money is really about compounding. So that 100, today is 100, tomorrow it's going to be 105. In 2 years' time, it's going to be 10,000. So you really just have to start with whatever it is that you have.
I like that. And I like that you've also brought about the aspect of compounding. And that it takes us back to school, where we had about simple interest and compound interest. So compound interest is the accumulated amount.
Absolutely.
So that takes us to budgeting.
Yes.
That's about, you have to figure out your budget within your means. So Frederick, do you have a formula where we can budget, and based on the income that we have, is there any ratios of put aside 80-20, because I've come across those different rules of 80-20, sometimes 30-70. Is there any rule on how you can budget to make sure that you maximize the income, whatever amount it is, so that you make sure it works for you?
Yeah, of course, with the era of social media, I think that information has been spread all across our social media platform, and you can find that information anywhere. So there are several rules according to your liking, maybe I would say, and what you prioritize the most. But the basic rule is always 10, 20, 30, then 50, whereby you divide half of your salary should be able to cater for your daily expenses, such as rent, food, and other stuff. Then the other half should be investment and stuff. And so the other 50 that is you're supposed to use to pay your rent, buy clothing kama kawaida, we as our generation squeezy. Like I would say it's 20, 30, then 10. 50, yeah. Yeah.
So then you prioritize.
Yeah, according to your priorities. Yeah, your priorities are the ones that set whatever percentage you'll set aside. If you're disciplined enough, you'll follow the original plan.
I like that because some people have to pay rent, some people have kids, some people it's just their own expenses. Now that is also part of now living within your means, that budgeting. Because sometimes you've allocated your budget, you've written it very clearly. You've said I'm going to put 2,000 into savings from this 5,000, and then the rest of this I'll buy food for 1,500, and then I'm going to make my nails for 500 bob, and then have something else. But then you get to the market and the price does not align. You get to the nail spa and instead of 500 you're being told it's 1,000 bob. Na sasa you're there, you've already gotten the service, you've gotten to the supermarket, maybe you thought milk is 50 bob and milk is 65 bob all of a sudden, and you hadn't thought about that. So Winnie, how can we how can we move around to be flexible so that we are able to accommodate the unexpected changes? Because that's one thing I think we don't usually factor in when we're budgeting. We don't expect some expenses, so we don't really factor it in. We don't factor in that extra 100 bob. Then you get to the stage, you had 100 for fare, now it's 200 bob because kumenyesha. How can we factor in those extra expenses to make sure that we're still living within our means and we're maximizing what we have?
Yeah. So I would say, according to the rule of thumb when it comes to budgeting, so that's 50% for your needs, 30% for your wants, and 20% to your savings and investments. So now if you go to the parlor and it's 1,000 and you had budgeted for 500, you still have a kitty, 30% for your wants, okay? And you won't feel like, oh my God, now I have to actually pay this out of pocket. No, no, no. Because if you earn 10,000 bob, 5,000 should go towards your needs, 3,000 to your wants, and 2,000 to your investments and savings. So you can now go into the kitty for your wants. Yeah.
So you have to allocate
Yes.
hapo.
Yes.
What if someone has
Takes
a
a lot
tight
of discipline,
budget? Because
though.
you know, it does take a lot of discipline.
Yeah, a lot
but
of
you
discipline.
know, there are people who work with a very tight budget. And that's the reality of most Kenyans, especially these days with the economic times. So down to that 100 shillings, it has been accounted for.
But you see, Cheryl, a budget really is reliant on your income. You get. So you will budget on that 100 bob.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if what you get is 100 shillings, then that 50, 30, 20 will apply on that 100 shillings.
Then can you also help us then? What are some of the things that we can make sure we're also doing externally from what we're doing with the money to make sure that we are living within our means? Is there, maybe, let's say you go to one nail spa, can you explore another vendor? Can you explore a different area of living? What are some of the things that we can implement to make sure that our budget is also aligning with the lifestyle and everything? Because I think that's the catch. You know, sometimes mtu anapanga income anasema, this is what I earn 20, this is my budget, and then you get some unexpected needs, and then all of a sudden you have to tap into M-Shwari, you have to Fuliza and get some extra 1,000 shillings. So what are some of the habits that we can incorporate aside from the money habits to make sure that it aligns with the budget and the income as well?
I would say that it all breaks down to, like, it goes down to financial discipline. Something funny or something interesting, if you are given a salary of 20,000, do you know that you'll budget that 20,000 to your specific needs? And if your salary was also raised to maybe, let's say, 80,000, your lifestyle also will change to suit that 80,000. You see, now that's the biggest problem. If you can fit within a budget of 20,000, then why would it be so hard to fit in a budget that is 20,000? If it all comes down to budgeting and also understanding there's always a cheaper option. That is what I always say. There is always a cheaper option. If this vendors offers, maybe it's just the same case now here in town. You'll find a vendor who's selling eggs and sausages. You can maybe find that he's selling one egg at maybe 20 shillings or 15 shillings. But then walk down, maybe let's say River Road. There's another vendor selling the same eggs, boiled eggs, at 15 shillings or maybe 10 shillings. So all you have to do is just do your analysis and market research to find out where can I get the same service for a cheaper option. I guess that is what applies to even to these business people. The things they sell, they always go for a cheaper supplier. Then that should also apply in our real life situation. Yes.
I like that you've also brought about the aspect of when you're earning 20, you will make it work.
Yes.
When you earn 80, 150, all of a sudden your taste has changed.
Yes. Now you want
It's
to
always like
explore
that.
other
Now you want to
yes.
explore something else.
Yes.
There's this thing of when your salary just hits and all of a sudden the food at home does not taste that good. So it's about also the habits. And I want us to get into this conversation with you as well. Let me know by going to our platforms at Y254. Our hashtag is the Power Talk Show. Let me know, why do you think people live outside their budgets? Why do you think sometimes people live extravagant lifestyles that go beyond their means? That's one thing that I want to understand from you. I wanted to get into how we can live within our means. So what are some of the factors that make people live beyond their means? And now that takes me to expenses, because the expenses are what make the budget sometimes go over or under. Sometimes your taste changes. All of a sudden,
course,
I
with
don't want
money.
to go to Kibandaski. I want to go to Kempinski. I have 5,000 in my pocket. Why not go to some fancy restaurant I've never been to before? So there are those things that we want to, there's a need for exploring different experiences. Sometimes perhaps we didn't have those chances when we were younger. We didn't have the same opportunities, and now you have the opportunities. And all of a sudden, every weekend, something is going down in Nairobi. There's an event. There is an artist coming. There is a new restaurant. You have to look good. I feel like, especially for women, you know, for women, sometimes these expenses, I have to buy a new outfit because I'm going to be on TV today. You know? And it wasn't in your budget.
For men, it's even worse.
Yeah. With men, you just go and buy one shoe. All of a sudden, shopping expense, budget imekula. So, Winnie, I know the expenses are what get us, because sometimes we want to do everything. We want to go everywhere with everyone. We want to look the best. We want to show off and show people we're doing well.
Yeah.
So how can we still manage our expenses? Because you've talked about compound interest. That also means you need to have patience when you're budgeting to make sure that you're putting some money away and be patient enough to make sure that today I won't enjoy this, but 3 months from now I will. How do we manage our expenses to make sure that they don't go beyond our means?
How do I answer that question? But I would say, and this again goes down to financial discipline. Ask yourself why, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
And this I've seen, of course, in the years I've been in this space. Ask yourself why. And when you think about you want to live this certain type of lifestyle, for example, you want to go for all these events every other weekend. Where is that money coming from? Okay. Do you want to maybe get a side hustle? Because if you're going to go into debt for you to live this kind of life, are you really helping yourself? No. So you need to ask yourself, where is this money going to come from? Is it going to come from the 30% of your wants? Okay. Because again, your expenses should just revolve around that, your needs, your wants, and your savings. So if you're able to find extra sources of income that can support those wants, by all means possible, right? But if you're going to go into debt to try and live a certain life to impress other people or things like that, then really you'll be doing a disservice to yourself. Yeah.
I like that. But I also believe it takes maturity
Or a lot of it.
for someone to get there.
Yeah.
And also with the discipline, because we keep talking about financial discipline. It takes maturity for you to get there.
Yeah.
Can you imagine you're just a graduate, all of a sudden you're being given 80K to start? Fresh off uni, you're probably still living at home with your parents, and you've been seeing all these people going to clubs, they've been going to Naivasha every weekend, flying down to Diani, and you want to start living that lifestyle. Also, there's the social media pressure. These people are doing that, so why not me? They're flying out every other weekend, why not me? Yeah, so how do we fight? How do we get to that point where, because there's this concept of also you have to get used to money so that you're not fascinated by money. How do we get used to money? So tuambie Frederick, because mimi leo niekewe hapa 10 million. At 10 million it's all
what
yours.
Your lifestyle.
Yeah, you know.
What will you do with it?
Right now, I'll be very practical. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to invest most of it because I'm mature enough.
That
I
is
will
what you
invest, but I will also eat that money.
That money.
There's about 1 million or half a million that will probably be unaccounted for.
There's always a big problem within what you say
Yeah.
and what you're actually doing. When
On
that
the
money
ground.
yes, on the ground, things are very different.
I'm telling
Very
my
different.
accountant will ask me, explain, what did you do? And I also don't know. We need to go through the accounts together. Let's look at the transactions together. And sometimes there's that. Sometimes there's this concept of pesa tu inakuasha.
Yes.
It's December. We need to
now
go
you
and
want to-
piga sherehe.
Yes. No, mind
Plan
you,
for it.
in December,
Yeah.
unapiga sherehe. Now that is the time now.
Now all of a sudden you want, so how do we, because before we get to that planning, that also takes maturity. Mi nataka mtu mwenye, you're just starting, you've never touched money like this, and it's your first time. How do you get to that point where you are able to feed all the needs that you have so that you're not, you know, sometimes the things that you didn't get, back to where I started. Sometimes people are not fortunate enough to start from money. So they've never seen some things, they've never experienced certain things.
Yes.
And when you get that money, you want to do everything. So how do you convince your mind almost that all these things are still yours? They will still come. So how do you get to that point where you have the discipline, Frederick? That's what I'm trying to get to. Because saying have financial discipline is one thing, but how do we get to that point where you nurture financial discipline?
Reality check is one thing is very important to any person. Reality check is very important. And not just reality check, you need to understand your behavior around money. How do you behave when you have too much and when you have too little to handle? So when you master that, you see that some people, when you have little, smoky or the street will taste even sweeter than even chapati in a restaurant. So that is very important. And I always feel like those people who are deprived of money, sorry to say, but they are the ones who end up spending even more than what they earn or more than what they have, because they have all this pressure. They are getting it from social media, from friends. And one thing I always say is that you're here as a person, and those problems, you'll face them alone. Once you you are the one in that rat hole, and there's nothing as bad as hand to mouth. That thing is very bad. Hand to mouth. When your salary comes in, you have nothing to save, you have nothing set aside. And you know, with time, I always say that between 20 to 30, that it is an accumulation age. That is where you get to gather your investment. But tell me, nowadays, our youth, 20 to 30, this is their time to piga sherehe and do everything. Now when they get to 30, that is when now they become serious. Now they want now to settle down. Now they want to look for a house and stuff.
Now want to invest.
And by 30 now, that is the time now you want to have a family. You can't invest when you have a family. Okay, as much as you will invest, but not as much as when haukuwa na familia. You see, now that changes the dynamics. So master your mind when you have little and when you have much. Always learn to measure your abilities when you have much and little. Na pia, just when you are earning maybe to say a salary of 80,000, just tell your mind that you are earning a salary of 40,000. I think that will help you to, you know, budget. And also, I always say, weekend kaa kwa nyumba, never go out. If you have to save, that is, enjoy your rent. Because there's no way you're paying rent. And you're not even, there's some people wanalipa rent, they don't even know their houses.
They barely live there.
Weekends,
I've come across people like, they stay in their house like 4 days a month. The rest, they're all over the country. So why are you paying rent?
The same person, ukiingia kwa nyumba yake, will ask him, I'm looking for this. Hata mwenyewe hajui. And nyumba di yake. So why would you just stay in the house, accumulate all this, and when you're in your 30s, when all these investments, money market funds, chamas for ladies and every other stuff, then in your 30s now, that is when just start enjoying kiasi, because now your investments sasa saizi zimeanza kujipa. So enjoy in your 30s, of course.
I like that. I like that you've said that, because it's reminded me of a story I came across on X of someone who got a contract. I think he got a contract of about 10-15 million. So after about a month, his friend sees him driving, anaishi sijui wapi. So beshte yake ako worried, ako like, hey, you've bought a car. That's not wise. Then the guy said, I put 10 million in a money market fund or some investment. So what I'm eating is the leftover, plus that money market fund gives me money every single month. So there are people who are wise like that. But then there are people who immediately you start earning, you've been given a contract of 100K. You take a Benz on loan.
Yes, of course.
Immediately.
You have to look the job.
How will people know I'm not? I have to be a Subaru boys immediately, and you've taken it on loan. That's a major person. When we go to our watu wa kidogo, let's say you earn, you get some pocket money from your parents, but then M-Shwari is your best friend. Fuliza is your best friend. You have to tell people, don't tuma kwa hii line, because itakata.
So you have like 4 lines.
You have like 4 lines, because there's one that you have to send, and then that one will send to this number, and then when you're ready to pay Fuliza, you'll send to that one. It's a whole thing, even with the mobile loaning apps, and those things
and
usually
I feel like
accumulate.
those apps have made life so difficult. Imagine Kitambo, we didn't used to have those apps, and life was so simple. That's why even our parents, maybe we will say, maybe walitusomesha comfortably, because we didn't have those apps. WhatsApp. Squeeze pesa when you want loan in seconds.
It's instant.
It's approved. And I think that is hata inachangia this poor lifestyle ambayo we are having right now.
And you know, another thing I also I realized is people don't understand that it also plays a role in your credit score, which affects you long term. So I want us to talk about that. How do these small debts affect your credit score? Because right now, you know, you're young. We don't have, most of us don't even know what a credit score is. So we need, please enlighten us and tell us first, what is a credit score? And what are these loans? What are the small loans doing for that? And how can we even get away from constantly copying here and there?
Yeah, so basically, a credit score is your ability to be able to access credit or debt, okay? So there's good credit and a bad credit score. So if your credit score is good, that means you have capacity to access debt. And if your credit score is bad or low, that means then it will be a problem for you to access debt. And how most people get themselves into this mess of bad credit scores is the constant taking up of loans from different providers and not paying according to the stipulated how do I put it, the stipulated like the time frames and all that. So for example, if you take a loan with a specific bank today, and maybe 3 years from now you're not able to pay, of course you'll be listed, right?
Yeah.
So if you go, if now you leave this bank thinking that that debt has disappeared and you go to another bank, of course they wouldn't be able to give you credit. And the thing that you actually see is now people go to these cheaper, they're actually more expensive, but they're easily accessible. So these mobile loans, which are very expensive. And those now you can access as many as you want. So, and even when you access those, because you know they ask you for your ID, your phone number, so of course you will be listed. So now that's how you're able to determine what is good credit and bad credit. Yeah.
And I think the thing that people have had is the CRB, the credit, is it the review bureau?
Yes.
And that's, people just talk about CRB. We don't know the value of CRB. We don't know how important it is for you to have good credit. Because as you've said, there is good debt and there is bad debt. And there's this concept of wealthy people, sometimes they take out loans to finance businesses and to finance investments. Then they pay off from that and get some profit. Your concept, there's someone who also applied that. We've been hearing this story on social media about a car dealer who's been, right now he's in debt, a lot of debt. His reputation is tarnished. And there were times when he'd mentioned things like that. You know, you have to do this so that you can become wealthy. People will give ideas of things like that. They tell you have to get into debt for you to do this. But do you necessarily have to get into debt? Lazima nichukue mshwari, Frederick.
No, you don't have to really to get into debt for you to survive. You see, nowadays, there's everything for every person. Like, kila kitu. If I want this chair, and I have 10,000, there's a place I'll go and I'll still get the same chair, not of the same quality, but of this design at a cheaper price. So there is no need. Now, let me tell you, how the rich, the only thing we are told, the rich wanaenda into debt to finance the other businesses, and then they get the profits to pay back the business. But there's a lot that goes on in between. Yenye hatuambi, we are not being told what goes on in between. So someone is just thinking, I'll just take a loan, I'll invest in, let's say, Aviator. They'll just bet with the money, then atasema, the interest that I'll get, I'll be able to pay off this loan, alafu I'll still remain with some other cash ya kufanya, of which it's bad. Doing research, wanasemaga, don't go to a market that you don't understand. Try something that you have knowledge about. Now, our generation, we always want things to happen quick. Hata unaona, they wanakata kuinvest in money market fund, because for you to get that interest, it takes you up to a year ndio upate hiyo. So someone will invest today and aka 3 weeks inamuasha, I have some money mahali. Hata rudi huko, he'll plug back the money and use it kwa other stuff. So
it's not advisable.
Not advisable. But I will say, just getting the right information. And with our generation, we have so much information everywhere. So if I want information about anything, I'll get it. So we don't do research. No wonder somebody ends up taking a loan yenye he can't be able to pay. Now the idea that Sinani does this and gets this, haja kuambia what happens in between ndio alipe hiyo loan. So we should be really be very cautious when you are doing such stuff. Just to go to the things that you understand. Kama ni mtu wa mshwari, you know how mshwari works, then chukua hiyo loan ya mshwari because you know you'll be able to pay it. Kuliko kwenda kwa bank, umesahau to read the terms and condition, utekwa CRB. So you think by moving from this bank to another bank umejiokolea. Then you end up with a bad credit score. So just live within your means. Ukipata hiyo 20,000. Now this happens to us, especially sisi young people, because when you're starting your career, hatuanzagi na 80,000, 100,000. Tunaanzaga most people ni 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. Learn to live within hiyo mshahara ya kwanza. Ukipata your salary increment, si lazima you change your lifestyle at you move to a posher area. You can still maintain the same lifestyle na bado you unaongeza your credit score by investing and taking loans zile zenye you can be able to pay comfortably.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like that. So I want us to first tackle even how can you take a loan? What's the most advisable way? Because I came across someone who said you shouldn't take a loan against your salary because that's going to affect you long term. So I want us to get into what are some of the things that need you to take a loan and how you can go about that, and also investments. I want us to come and talk about that after we take a very, very short break. Meanwhile, I want to hear from you. You can do that by going to our platforms at Y254. Let me know why you think people live beyond their means. Why do people live such extravagant lifestyle that are out of their means? How can we live within our means? That's the conversation we're having today. Let's take a very short break, but stay tuned. We're coming back with so much more.